back at you again with another video today. And I've been sitting around trying to figure out what's the next video I'm going to make for you guys. And I'm also really tired because I just came back from snowboarding earlier today. But I had an idea where I thought, why don't I share more of my life and more of who I am as a person with you guys, and share things that have happened to me throughout my career as a tattoo artist. So I'm going to introduce a new segment to the channel, and we'll call it Tattoo Story Time. So the first story that I'm going to share with you guys will be how I actually started tattooing. So it goes back to 2009. I was 17 at the time, and I was very deeply engaged in graffiti culture and graffiti itself. It kind of consumed my world. It was pretty much the only thing I really cared about at the time. I was, I feel like I'm a fairly intelligent person, but, I really only committed to doing well in art and in English in high school. Everything else I really didn't really care much for because I didn't feel like it pertained to the direction that I wanted to take my life. Because I knew from a very young age that I was going to engage in art as a profession. I just didn't know in what faction, what form I was going to be able to do that in. So at the time, like I said, I was completely engulfed, entrenched in graffiti culture. And that's all I cared about for probably about, my entire high school career. I would draw graffiti all day long in every class, and then at night I would go out and paint it. So people in my school, they knew that about me, and one of the seniors, one of the upperclassmen who was friends with my brother, he actually approached me and asked me to draw him a tattoo. And I was kind of taken off guard because I had never drawn a tattoo before. But the style that he was looking for was graffiti based. So I was like, sure, like I'll draw a graffiti piece for you, and you'll be able to put it on your arm, go take it to an artist or whatever. So, that was my first taste of what it could be like to, do work for a customer, commission-based work, as well as my first taste of designing tattoos. And I did that, and at that moment when I completed it, sold the piece, gave it to my client at the time, I had my aha moment, my moment of clarity, where I was just like, oh wow, like this could be something that I could do. To make money as well as to be fulfilled, to fulfill that need to create art, as well as, provide that function of being free and not being controlled by, a corporate environment, corporate entities, having to rely on another business in order to make money and to feed myself and sustain myself. So I'd probably say at 17 I had my epiphany, my moment of clarity. And at that point, I had completely become obsessed with getting into tattooing and trying to figure out how I was going to make that happen. Initially, my first thought was, let me just get online and buy a tattoo kit because I can figure this out. I'm an artist. I do this kind of stuff. But then, the analytical side of me came into play, and I started to think, okay, let me do as much research as I can on this and find out as much as I can about the tattoo industry, the do's, the don'ts, and, what is the traditional route of breaking into the tattoo industry. And that's when I found, that getting a kit was the wrong thing to do, and that I should probably focus on, developing a portfolio that I could then bring into a tattoo shop and approach a tattoo artist with and ask for an apprenticeship. If you don't know what an apprenticeship is, it's like an on-the-job training, one-on-one, with a seasoned tattoo veteran that can take anywhere between 1 to 3 years. It could take even longer. It really just depends on that individual's capacity to absorb new concepts as well as applying those concepts. So Hold on 1 second. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I had to go let my dogs back in the house. They've been outside playing. So, like I was saying, I was preparing a portfolio to bring to a tattoo artist to inquire about getting an apprenticeship. So, at that point, I probably spent the next year between age 17 to 18 developing a portfolio. And my idea was to come up with what I thought tattoos look like. My versions of my interpretations of what I thought tattoos look like in a wide range of different styles. So I tried to draw Japanese, I tried to draw portraits, I tried to draw traditional, um, figurative art, illustrative realism. I tried to draw as much stuff as I could, and I really thought it was hot shit. But honestly, thinking back on it now, it was really mediocre, and there was a lot that I needed to learn at the time. But it was everything that I knew at the time. I put my entire heart and soul into that. My lifeblood pumped through that portfolio at the time. I would sit in my room every day and draw at least 2 to 5 drawings a day, just trying to fill it up with full page drawings. And once I felt like I had enough work, comprised in the portfolio, that's when I started looking for an apprenticeship. For those that don't know, I'm originally from Chicago, Illinois. I currently live in Arizona, but when I was there in Chicago, that's where I originally started my search for an apprenticeship. I must have looked around at maybe 20 to 30 different shops, primarily calling on the phone. At the time, I didn't know that calling on the phone was probably the wrong way to go about looking for an apprenticeship, and that it was probably best to like go in face to face. Um, because the majority of people that I called on the phone, they pretty much told me that they didn't want an apprentice, that they had an apprentice already, or that they had too many apprentices, or that I was too young because I was still I still wasn't 18 yet. I was almost 18. I wasn't 18 yet, so they said I was too young to learn. Um, so at this point, I'm getting discouraged. I've called like 20, 30 places at this point. I've popped into a couple different shops. I've been turned away. And it was at that point when I wasn't looking for an apprenticeship that I found one. It was February because it was the Chinese New Year, and I was in Chinatown in Chicago. And I was with my girlfriend at the time. And we went down there for the Chinese New Year parade, and I saw this sign off of the main strip that said "Smoking Ink Tattoos," and I'm like, "Oh, it must be a tattoo shop over there. Let's go check that out. I want to see what's going on over there." So I went down there. It was a little small, very very tiny smoke shop, and in the basement of this little crummy smoke shop was a tattoo shop that had like maybe enough room for 2 stations to work comfortably, but they tried to cram 3 in there, as well as it was just honestly it was a really bad location for a tattoo shop. Thinking back on it now, there was very low visibility for walk-in traffic. The business itself had conflicting business models. It was part smoke shop, part tattoo shop, as well as the management was just completely atrocious and terrible. The guy who owned the place was a gambler and probably a drug addict. I don't even know, but he had problems. He didn't really know what he was doing. So I went down in the basement. I told the artist that was down there. He was this big biker looking dude. His name was Tom Winkleman, and I told him I was looking for an apprenticeship, and he said he would be willing to teach me. He showed me his portfolio at the time of his drawings. I thought that he was the most amazing artist in the world at the time. Looking back on it now, the drawings that I saw, they were all traced. So, I was under the assumption that he was able to produce this quality of artwork out of his head, with, the art training that he received. But honestly, he just traced the stuff and then, shaded it out. So, which is a skill in it within itself. But if you can do that without being able to produce it on your own, you're not really learning and you're not really growing as an artist. So, me now, I probably would have never gotten an apprenticeship from this guy. But at the time, it was all that I had, and it was a way for me to break into the industry that I was so desperately trying to get into. And this person knew more than me, so I was more than willing to take the plunge. So, he decided he was going to apprentice me. I came back the next week, and we hashed out a contract. He had an apprenticeship contract with me. I was supposed to pay him $10,000 for my apprenticeship. In return, he was going to teach me everything I need to know, as well as give me my equipment. So I was broke. I didn't have. I had a job, but I was working part time. I was making like $5.50 an hour at the time. Eventually, I got that up to like $8 an hour. But back then, I was super broke. I was working part time in an after school program, teaching kids pre-K to high school in math and reading. Mind you, like I said, I didn't do well in school, but I was smart. I knew what I was supposed to be doing. I just didn't care about it. So I did that as a job, and my parents helped me out a little bit with the money with the apprenticeship, with the first payment or whatever, and I think I gave him like $400, $450, some shit like that, and we got my apprenticeship started, and it was cool. It was super cool, man. Like I learned how to break down, set up stations, make stencils, scrub tubes, which is a dying art now. Kids today, they don't know nothing about scrubbing no tubes. They don't know nothing about no ultrasonics, no autoclaves, because everything's all disposable now. They don't know nothing about setting up 4, 5, 6 machines to try and do a tattoo because you need multiple needle groupings and needle configurations. Today's youth of tattoos artists are completely spoiled and they don't know how lucky they are. Not to saying that my generation wasn't spoiled either, because we had the luxury of not having to make our own needles, as well as make our own pigments and things like that. But even so, I'm just saying, I digress. But anyways, I had to do some hard work too as an apprentice. I had to scrub toilets with toothbrushes and mop floors and do all kinds of stuff around the shop. But it was cool. I stayed there for probably about 6 months in Chinatown. I was a kid. I got my first tattoo in Chinatown. Tattooed a bunch of my homies down there in that little basement until the artist came to the same conclusion that I gave you guys earlier about that tattoo shop. That the owner was a cheapskate. He was a gambler. He was mismanaging the business, and it was running into the ground. And he was ready to leave. He was going to take me with him. But the only problem is that I was broke. I didn't have any money really to pay this dude $10,000 for an apprenticeship. So, and I told him that, I'm like, hey, man, I'm having trouble. I can't really do this or whatever. And he really liked me or whatever. He used to pick me up from my house, take me to the shop with him. We kicked it. I went to my first strip club with the dude, the 2-for-1 G-string special at, what's that one spot in Chicago? I can't even remember. But, I was a 17-year-old kid with fake ID hanging out with like 30-year-old tattoo artists and like having a great time. So we were friends. But at the same time, I can understand what had followed after that. So pretty much, he wanted to leave the shop. He was supposed to take me with him. I couldn't pay him his money. So, in his mind, instead of telling me the truth, I guess the better thing for him to do was to lie, come up with a story as to why, we couldn't continue the apprenticeship or whatever. So he told me he had MS and that he was moving to Florida for better weather for his condition or whatever. And I felt really bad at the time because I'm like, oh man, my he's got a debilitating illness and, he's got to leave me and all this other stuff. So, he bounced or whatever. Come to find out, like 2 years later, when I'm into my career or whatever, I find this mother on the north side of Chicago doing tattoos still, healthy as a horse, you know. But it's whatever, it is what it is, Money talks and bullshit walks and all that. So that's probably why he left, because I just probably couldn't pay him or whatever. So at that point, the shop owner, he's like, all right, so you're ready to do tattoos, right? You got 6 months under your belt. You done a couple tattoos. You're ready to go professional. Trying to use me, to pay off his gambling debts to whoever it was, And at the time, I was honestly, I was in it. I'm still in it to this day for the integrity. Like, the money is nice, but it's not the primary focus for me. It never has been. It never will be. The primary focus is to create good tattoos and to create good artwork for people. There's nothing more that I enjoy than seeing someone's face after getting a tattoo that they really love. That sense of, you know, excitement is so gratifying to me. So at that point, the artistic integrity in me, came back at him and told him, no, I'm not ready to do this professionally here. So at this point, I'm gonna have to leave the shop. Which at that point he tried to flex the contract on me. And then I had to come back in turn and say, hey, I didn't sign a contract with you. I signed a contract with my mentor. He left, so that is now null and void. There were some tattoo supplies there. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. I didn't have nothing. So, and me and this dude were ended on bad terms. So I took the tattoo machines that were there and I kept them. And they were my first machines that I ever had. I still got them here to this day. I rocked with these boys for my first, I want to say my first year of tattooing. Maybe my first 2 years of tattooing. Those were my go-to machines. These are some super cheap electromagnetic coil machines, probably made in China. By this company called, what is it called? What is it? Industrial Tattoo Supply or something like that. International Tattoo Supply. That's where they come from. But that's the spot in Chicago. It's also out here in Arizona. And I messed with that company for a long time, like for supplying my equipment, because it was cheap. It was what I could afford, and they would sell to me. I wasn't a professional, and typically in the tattoo industry, tattoo supply places won't sell to you if you're not a professional. And this place, they held it down for people who were just trying to come up in the game. Even if you weren't a professional, I could go in there and they would hook it up for me, which was nice. Not to say that I probably should have had the stuff, because I really wasn't good at what I was doing. And from that point on, I was kind of winging it, because I was so determined to keep going and to keep learning until I could find another apprenticeship that I started scratching out of my house or whatever. So, and if you don't know what scratching is, that means like you're doing tattoos in your living room or in your kitchen or whatever. You can be called a kitchen magician or a scratcher, or whatever, all of that stuff. But honestly, it didn't matter to me because I wanted to tattoo so bad. I wanted it more than anything. I wanted to be really good at it. I wanted to be respected for it. So there was nothing that was gonna get in my way. And there was nothing that was gonna stop me from doing it. My family tried to stop me from doing it. My friends, some of them try to stop me from doing it. People will talk down on you and be a naysayer and try to discredit what you want to do, even though it's something that's hard and maybe the path that's less traveled. But if you can get to that end of that road, the end of that path, you'll come out the other side stronger for it and more and successful. And that's when everybody wants to ride your coattail and tell you, that they're proud of you and that you did a good job. But at first, because it seemed like it was a risk, people didn't want to mess with me for that. So, once again, I digress. I'm going off on another tangent here. But pretty much, I started scratching at home or whatever. I gave out tattoos for free. I did them for super cheap. Anybody who would let me tattoo them, anybody that I knew from high school, I was working on them. And, honestly, I ain't gonna lie, I messed up a lot of people's tattoos back then. And I'm sorry if I messed up your tattoo. I tried to fix as many as I could. If I come across you, I'll be happy to hook it up. But I mean, I didn't lie to anybody. People knew. They knew that I wasn't a professional. They knew that I was learning. And I feel like that's the way you keep your integrity, by letting people know the truth, that you don't know what you're doing and that you need to practice, and that they are as long as they go into it with that disclaimer, then you should feel okay. But I did that, and then eventually I came across a spot in my neighborhood, and my cocky my cocky self at this point thought I was good enough to tattoo professionally. So I walked in there and I was like, "Hey, you guys are a tattoo shop or whatever? I'm an artist. I'm looking for a job. Not that I'm looking for an apprenticeship. I was looking for a job." And it was a super cool dude. He's like my big brother to this day. His name's Smoke. He owned the shop, and coincidentally, the name of the shop was also called Smoke and Ink Tattoos, but it was not smoking. It was Smoke in Ink Tattoos after his name. Once again, his name was Smoke. So I told him I was looking for a job, and he told me, "All right, we're gonna see." So he said, "Come back, bring somebody to tattoo with you, and we'll see how you do." So I came in. I brought my mom's boyfriend at the time, and I drew up what I thought was a really cool snake, and I put it on him, put the stencil on or whatever. I didn't know at the time that you have to start from the bottom right to the top left corner when you're tattooing, or else you start from the top left to the bottom right. Your hand is touching the stencil the entire time, and by the time you get down there, you won't have a stencil left to tattoo. So that's exactly what happened, and I was sitting there for a couple hours struggling, trying to freehand my drawing back on the tattoo, and the tattoo ended up coming out really bad, and I felt bad, and Smoke comes over and he's like, "You're not ready to be a tattoo artist, but you can hang around here and we will teach you what you need to know." And that's how I got my legit apprenticeship, man. And I ended up staying with those guys for the next 2 years, learning the fundamentals of tattooing, cleaning the shop relentlessly, as well as, all the hazing and humiliation that comes with being an apprentice. Which is, it's a certain rite of passage. It's normal. I don't haze my apprentice that much. I kind of mess with them a little bit, but I don't really do that kind of stuff to them because it's not that deep. But honestly, traditionally, apprentices get hazed, apprentices get bullied, and it's all a process of creating pressure on the apprentice, to try and make them stronger, make them tougher. Like you're essentially trying to compress, coal into a diamond, and that's just how it worked back then. So I stuck with them for 2 years, and after that, I went my own way, and yeah, that was the story pretty much. That's how I started tattooing. There might be some artists out there that would judge me for scratching in the house or whatever. But honestly, we all start somewhere. It's not where you begin. It's where you finish, man. And my journey ain't over. I'm by no means am I a scratcher no more. I'm a full-fledged professional tattoo artist. Been tattooing for 10 years now. Worked in multiple shops, done conventions, all over the country, And honestly, I'm not trying to be cocky, but I feel like my work speaks for itself. I'm not the best by any means. There are definitely people that are world-class artists, but I'm no slouch either. So that's what I'm trying to say. Like, it doesn't matter where you start, it matters where you finish, and it matters if you decide to stay where you're at or if you decide to want more for yourself and want to do better. So yes, I started, in a little crummy tattoo shop in Chinatown, and then I started tattooing in my mom's living room after that, going to do house calls. But now I don't have to do that. Now I have my own private room inside of a tattoo shop, you know, doing exactly what I want to do with the squad that I want to do it with, making what I want to make, you know. So, don't let anyone dissuade you from doing what you want to do, in life ever. If you want something, go get it. Don't be drawn into what the naysayers have to say about you or your dream, your goal. Just go after it and go get it relentlessly. You can do it. You can be successful. You can make it. You can make your dreams a reality. You just have to stay persistent and you have to work hard, and you can achieve whatever it is that you set your mind to, you know. And one more touch on the scratchers. I'd probably say almost all the dopest dudes that I know at one point or another may have tattooed in a house, at least for a little bit. I'm not in any way, shape, or form condoning scratching. Just want to put that out there because I do feel like an apprenticeship is necessary. But, the real tip is I did it too, But it is what it is, I hope you guys like this video or whatever. I'm trying to bring you guys some more content like this just so you can kind of get to know me as a person, get to know, where I'm from, what I'm like, things that I've done, things that I've seen in my career, because I got some crazy stories that I can definitely break out for y'all. But yeah, man, if you like this video, hit the like button, leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for future content from me. All right, well, I'll see y'all in the next one.